Welcome to another episode of Conduct Detrimental. Dan Lost, joined by my guy, Mike Krevchenko. Mike, are you doing better than you were approximately 7 days ago?
Yeah, no, definitely.
Why,
Yeah, I would say so.
why did I say 7 days ago? Approximately 7 days ago. We could say 6 days ago.
You know what? You share. I'm. You got me a little stumped right now into what exactly you're referencing.
We had this lovely Conduct Detrimental Sports Law Symposium with full of great speakers. Um, you know, and every once in a while, we have great speakers, we have great moderators, great questions, great conversation, and then something bad happens, Mike. Something bad happens. Someone abuses the trust of the Zoom, and they sneak in under false pretenses. And what do, Mike? They Zoom bomb. Hypothetically, did any Zoom bombers occur during said Conduct Detrimental Sports Law Symposium?
Yeah, so far they've been a little too successful. I would say in the first couple
Mr. Krevchenko, I
symposiums.
was looking for a yes or no answer to that, Mr. Krevchenko.
Yes.
Hypothetically, oh yes, this occurred. And Mike, actually, I don't want to put you in the hot seat for that long. Okay, listen, stuff happens. Stuff happens. I was told by those present for the Zoom bombing that it was handled quickly and swiftly, but some images are burned into the heads of the audience members. So,
Yep.
it is what it is. We shall not speak of those things. Mike was said. Conduct Detrimental Symposium recorded.
It was recorded.
We're going to burn the tapes. No one
That's
will ever
correct.
know. Or
That's
we'll
correct.
edit the tapes and no one will ever know about said Zoom bombing. But listen, I'm doing better than I was 7 days ago. I was in lovely Mississippi in Oxford, which will come up during the course of this conversation, some of the topics we have today. So we originally, if you're wondering why there is a delay, we don't usually let a week go without going up. I was the keynote speaker at the Ole Miss Sports Law Review Symposium. You guys know I wrote this book on college sports law. No one is watching on video, but Mike, you see I'm holding up the book. Yeah, I had met with my co-author, Will Berry. He's the dean of, he's a dean there, associate dean. He's the sports law professor. We did this whole lovely talk, prepping everybody for the House hearing. We're talking about collectives. We're talking about torpedo bats. I don't think we've talked about torpedo bats in the podcast, have we, Mike?
No, we have not
We
yet.
have not. You and I haven't spoken in a while, but that might come up during the conversation. But we had recorded a lovely, long, in-depth, intensive 45-minute conversation, and we recorded the audio. And the plan was to put the audio on this podcast. And Mike, what did we say the audio was? The audio was
It was brutal. Honestly, it was just so far away. There was just so much distraction in the background, too much background noise. But maybe the next one.
yeah, it's all good. So it is what it is. Will, I think, is going to join us on the podcast at some point. I was going to have him join today. It was just a little too messy time wise. Can I tell you one funny Mississippi story while we have some time? We'll keep this an abbreviated show.
Yeah,
You ready for this? So I flew in. You can't really fly. I mean, you can fly direct. You can't really fly direct from New York to Mississippi. You can. It's a little tricky, but at least they didn't have any My Day. So we looked up flights, and it looked like Memphis, New York to Memphis. You could fly direct, and then you take an Uber an hour from Memphis. So it was kind of quicker than the connecting flight to Mississippi. So anyway, Uber takes me in. I tell him to take me to the law school. I punch it in. Somehow this lovely driver, he listens to the Uber directions. I must have put an address that was like 30 minutes away from the law school, but it's a college town. So like everything is kind of close. Like, so you're going to see students. There's an undergrad, there's a business school, there's a law school, but like I was not that close to law school. So I see a student, and I can tell you, student's got his backpack on. He looks like of student age, maybe an undergraduate. And I'm like, I get out. I'm like, clearly not from here. I'm clearly a Yankee of some way, shape, or form. Clearly not from the town. And I go, hey, can you point me to the law school? And he kind of tells me like, things pretty far. It's a long walk, and I think it's like half an hour walk. It was probably much easier driving. So he starts pointing me directions. He goes, take a left, go to the clock tower, take a right, go down the street, and it's very complicated. So he goes, hey man, I have an idea. Why don't I just drive you there right now? You're Mike. I see you smiling right now. Your reaction was the same as mine. Like, 95% chance Southern hospitality, 5% chance murderer, maybe 90-10, maybe 85-15, maybe 99-1. But that 1% chance, I was not going to take it because in New York, in the Northeast, and dare I say most places other than the South, no one would be so kind as to offer that. And I am a pretty good judge of character. I really did think the guy was being nice, but in the 1% chance I was off and my read of people was off, I did not want to wind up dead. That would be terrible. I would not be here recording this podcast. So I had a long, nice talk, and my Will Barry, he'll be on the podcast at some point. He knows the story. He's like, no, that's just Southern hospitality. People are really nice down here. And I'm like, yep, people in New York and Northeast are generally assholes and are not nice and would not offer that. So it threw me off completely. But yes, Southern hospitality, 100%. Food was great. They had like Ole Miss formals that were happening on Tuesday nights. So I got the full flavor of Mississippi. I was in and out, 1 day quick trip. But it was a great time. Oxford's a beautiful, beautiful college town. Shout out to Will. Shout out to the Mississippi Sports Law Symposium. Okay. Mike, was that I had a good time down there. It was a very quick trip though.
No, I could tell. And yeah, you got to enjoy and take in the Southern hospitality, and agreed with you 100 to the most extreme that that's just not how it operates here. So yeah,
I would not
I could appreciate that.
Yeah, if someone in New York offered that, it's probably a 90% chance they're trying to kill you.
Yeah, rob you, kill you, something.
Yeah,
something's gonna take place.
Anybody, anybody from New York. This is not, we're not. There's no comments here on anything. It's just if anybody offered to give you a ride to a half an hour destination, there's a very good chance they'd be trying to kill you. Okay. Hopefully we didn't offend that many people, but just the nature of the beast. We're all just playing the game. All just trying to survive, advance and survive and advance. Speaking of, we're going to talk a little bit about college sports in this podcast, but we have a couple updates from at least one preview story. We'll see how much we get to on this podcast. So I'll give the roadmap. We'll talk a little bit about Themis, and then Mike, we will just plow through these topics one by one. Are you ready to roll with me? You ready to take my hand and go on this adventure in sports law?
Let's do it.
Okay. We are going to talk about this is the rough order. If they all get there, great. If they don't get there, like I tell my class, my sports law class, we'll roll it over to the next class. It's all good. We're going to talk about Pat McAfee and a student from Ole Miss University tied up in this very interesting defamation saga. It's a story that came up in my class. Pat McAfee certainly came up on this class, on this show. We'll talk about it. What's her name? Mary Kate Cornett?
Yeah. Also from Ole Miss. So,
but Mike, that's why we're talking about it. Who else is from Ole Miss? Oh,
yeah.
Okay. Anyway, yes, I got it. Listen, it's been a long time. Okay. Number two, we're going to talk about, speaking of issues in the Southeastern Conference, we're going to talk about Jeremy Pruitt's lawsuit against the University of Tennessee. Former coach at Tennessee has kind of we'll say a last of its kind lawsuit, but we don't really talk about ex post facto laws. And that is when something becomes decriminalized after the fact. So we'll talk about that. It's a very big $100 million lawsuit against the university. I want to talk a little bit about House. We have no real decision on House, but we're going to talk about the hearing that was on April 7th. Xavier Worthy was one of the last episodes you and I discussed together. He has filed a lawsuit. Mike, I'm going to give that to you to give us the very high level of it. We'll do Xavier Worthy. That's 1, 2, 3, 4. The only thing I have on my list beyond that, and that's if we get to it, is torpedo bats. But I think we might be past torpedo bats. So if we don't get to it, we don't get to it. I do have some thoughts on it. Shout out to the University of Florida Gators for winning March Madness. I know we have a bunch of Florida listeners that listen to the show that went to Florida Law School and are proud of their Gators. So go Gators. Incredible win. It is all good. Reminder, podcast sponsored by Themis Bar Review, top bar prep company in the entire galaxy. We're getting pretty close to bar season. If you have not made up your mind on bar prep, you got to go with Themis. One more thing, Mike, that I thought was interesting, and then we'll do the topics. I give the talk. We do a 15-minute Q&A at Mississippi Sports Law, and a student raises his hand in the back, asks a really good question. I don't really think anything of it. He comes up to me after the podcast, and he goes, Dan, it's me. Maybe he's listening to this. I have no idea. And he said, it's me, Hunter Seidler. And I'm like, Hunter Seidler? Hunter started writing for our podcast when he was a junior in college. And now he is, he was like one of the first writers. He was doing law school rankings because he was looking at law schools. And the man is now a 3L. So shout out to Hunter Seidler. I love seeing all of you guys graduate and go on to do graduate conduct, graduate law studentness, graduate to go on and do real things. But that was really cool. The sports law world is very small. So shout out to Hunter. Shout out to everybody. Shout out to all the conduct detrimental people. If I get an email from someone and they say they listen to conduct, they're OGs. You move way up in the books. Okay. Stop doing nonsense. Let's get to the meat and potatoes. Mike, what is this salacious rumor that was floating around Oxford, Mississippi, and then floating around to the interwebs? What was this rumor that we are not saying is any assertion of fact? I just want to talk about what the rumor is, and then we'll talk about the rest of it.
Yeah, the rumor, if many people aren't aware of what we're talking about, it was all over the internet, starting all the way back in February. I mean, this isn't anything that's, incredibly new, but it started on Yik Yak, which I think is hilarious that it exists because it's an anonymous social media platform that's caused drama, I'm sure, through I don't know how many high schools and colleges across America, but it alleged that the freshman, Mary Kate Cornett, at UMiss had an inappropriate relationship with her boyfriend's father, and that continued to explode on the internet. And again, for those who maybe that are not aware of a subsection of Twitter that is SEC Twitter, it's definitely something, and it spread like a wildfire there. So it's very intertwined within sports naturally. So within February, McAfee ended up discussing it in a way on his daily show. Dan, I see you got your hand up.
Well, I want you keep going because let's pause. You and I have played the audio. Mike, do we have the technical abilities to put this very quick audio in this podcast? Can we do that in production?
We can in post-production.
Okay.
So you guys will be hearing it.
Let's play it right here. And to the extent, Mike, you can't do that, just leave this in and it's fine. We'll figure it out.
Some Ole Miss frat bro.
Yep. Sure.
Okay. Had a KD girlfriend. Allegedly.
This is the story we know. Allegedly.
At this exact moment, this is what is being reported by everybody on the internet. Dad had sex with son's girlfriend.
Okay. So we're going to assume that, Mike, we figured it out, correct? Good.
We definitely did, I promise.
Okay. So, Mike, you're a wizard. So we have just listened to Pat McAfee's segment on this Mary Kate Cornett business. Now, McAfee doesn't reference her by name, but it's obvious when this comment was Ole Miss. They're talking about Jackson Dart. They're making light of the situation. Okay. It's a very short clip. If you just read the headlines on this, that McAfee is facing legal fallout and ethical fallout from what he did. There are certainly ethics. Let's talk about that first. The legal one is, I think, the one where we need to spend a little bit more time on. This is a wildfire rumor that I remember where I was when I was reading this online, and I'm like, I think I was like a day late to the rumor, and I kept trying to find the original source material of where this was coming from, and eventually I stumbled along to this like anonymous thing, and I'm like, this is where everyone's basing this whole thing off of, like this anonymous thing. So I remember bringing it up to my New York Law School class, and I said, we always talk about defamation. It always comes up. There's always some type of concept, or will they or won't they sue? Or, we talk about the Blake Lively stuff, defamation. Defamation is just a fun, it's a fun entertainment law concept. And I said, assuming this is not true, like this is getting widespread reporting. And this girl, who seems to be a very real person, her life is very much screwed, and she's a private citizen. She is not a public figure. So the concept that we're not working with, it's not actual malice. It's just falsity. So this thing's spreading like wild. And, eventually this story gets to Pat McAfee. So on the ethics side, let's just do ethics. Why is Pat McAfee, as a sports show, bringing up a rumor, I don't want to say it at this point. We don't know if it's true or untrue or this or that. It's just a rumor, but it's of some guy, a what is it? The boyfriend's dad sleeping with the girlfriend?
Yeah, it's quote some Ole Miss frat bro,
Right.
and his sorority girlfriend that
Right.
his
That-
father allegedly had sex with her.
Right. That's the rumor. Just and this is not us reporting it. That's the rumor. Now the ethics is there that much newsworthiness to this? Not really. This is like a private citizen. I don't know who really cares about this. Now, could I see this going viral on Twitter with a bunch of eggs just thinking this is funny? Like, I mean, this is not the first time nor the last time it's happened. It might be the first or last time a rumor like this gets put onto the Pat McAfee show that's not being reported by anyone. So let's talk about the legality, right? The concept of defamation somewhat rests on, the reckless reporting of information without regard for truth or falsity. Now, when I'm talking about that, that's generally a concept that is brought up in the reporting of, you know, uh, facts around public figures. This concept of actual malice. Now, I'm not even. We don't obviously get that this is not a public figure situation. Um, what we want to talk about, right? Like, was she implied? This woman, this sorority girl, this girl on campus, Ole Miss. Was it the implication that it was about her? Certainly, there was no one else it was about. Is this rumor false? That's what she's saying, and she's now done a bunch of interviews. How this has ruined her life, and like, I get it. It probably has. So we have McAfee bringing up a story. We have the story. Let's assume for argument's purposes the story is false. Mike, is that are we good? Is that just McAfee's going to get sued for hundreds of millions of dollars? Is that as simple as that?
No, but it's towing the line. Like, you're definitely right, and it's interesting to see the angle that they're going at as well. He's doing, he said this at the NFL Combine. It was completely just not a part of the show, like you mentioned. And it's pretty, like, to this point where they're at, it's pretty negligent to just be on there, basically amplifying what is a rumor and possibly a harm, ended up being a very harmful rumor. I mean, shit, she ended up, but she ended up being, her mom's house got swatted.
Mhm.
She got sent to emergency housing on campus. I mean, death threats, everything
Right.
you could imagine. So the harm is there.
So
Um,
I feel for the situation, but like again, the lawyer in me, and like I'm always watching this very closely. And I've had clients that have been accused of defamation, and what they said might have been like disparaging, but it wasn't defamatory, right? Sometimes it's just someone's opinion of something. Now, this wasn't McAfee's opinion. That's not what he was rendering. He was saying, and if you listen to if you wade through that 39-second clip or however long that was, McAfee is saying in no unclear terms, this is being reported by other people. And the guys in the background are saying allegedly, whatnot. They and I'm not doing the actual analysis in Mississippi. I don't, I'm not taking any liability for that. But you could do your research in whatever jurisdiction you're in, right? And this is not a 50 state survey we're giving on the podcast. Certainly the 50 state surveys exist if you want to find them on Google and whatnot. A lot of law firms put these out. But people need to be mindful of case law surrounding precautionary words. That's why the words allegedly, reportedly, supposedly exist, because you are not making an assertion of fact when you're saying somebody else is reporting it. Now, the ethics, I totally get. I'm with you. McAfee should not be saying this on air. It's an insane thing to say on air. Now, the person that started this rumor online, that is this anonymous, what's the account, Mike? What's the social media account?
Yik yak.
Yeah, the person that started it there, like they originated it, and it wasn't reported as a joke. It was, I mean, maybe they'll say it was reported as a joke, which is another defense, right? If you're saying it rhetorically, but this was not reported as a joke. This was reported real, but by some other person. Now, that person probably doesn't have any money. Like, that's just the nature of the beast. Let's put it this way. They certainly have less money than Pat McAfee. So you have a lot of people saying, oh, legal exposure. Yeah, he might have legal exposure because anybody can sue anyone for anything. But in terms of success on the merits, like, there's at least 3 references to allegedly's, and reported by other people. So that's the whole nature of this defamation case. Like, yeah, is McAfee a knucklehead for talking about it like that? Sure, but like after the whole Brett Favre saga, which we reported on time and time again, Mike. I think it was one of the first times you found this podcast. Like no brainer. Like he is not going to fall into that the whole saga again. And in the McAfee saga, all he said was, Brett Favre tied the hands of poor people, and he didn't say allegedly, right? He was telling a joke, which was a separate defense. But I don't really think McAfee has any exposure here. I mean, okay, do we think he has exposure? Yes. Do I think when push comes to shove, will he be found liable on the merits? I find that very dubious. And again, I'm happy to be wrong. I'm happy for this girl, Mary Kate Cornett, to be paid in a way that's commensurate to try to help her harm. Sure, I'm not rooting against her, but I don't think McAfee's the right target for this.
No, and they went after others as well in that. I mean, Antonio Brown is named. A couple
Did they go after Barstool too?
Yeah, they went after Barstool. So
was Jack Mack the guy?
I not 100% on that, but I do know. Yeah, Barstool, ESPN, McAfee, Antonio Brown. So they're making their rounds around sports media, and that's where I think it originated, was in SEC. Those burner accounts. That's what they're technically, on Twitter, the SEC burner accounts is what they're considered. That's the sub niche that it makes me sick, a lot of those accounts, but it's terrible. And that's where, it seemingly originated and spread. And, it's like I said, the natural connection with sports. I think that's where it ended up. That's how we got here. But yeah, I think we'll see. It's another one thing actually we do know before we get off is that McAfee is not one to just settle and kind of push away. I think
he's not.
He's someone that will go all the way. With the legal, let the legal system play out. So that this is definitely not the end of that, I think. But I would imagine, like you mentioned, probably the end or near the end of them mentioning things like that on ESPN, and it's just in that setting.
And imagine he's amplifying, and like the ethics, if we're not being clear, he's amplifying this to an exponential level, given his platform to the people that aren't on social media like you and I. And I'm not sure there's recovery because he's smart enough now to say allegedly and reportedly. That's the ethics issue. I don't think she can win against him in a lawsuit. I mean, it's not to stop them from trying, but the damages are only rising, and I don't think McAfee is liable for them. That's the tricky ethics part. So just because McAfee has now gotten smart enough to say allegedly, reportedly, doesn't mean that gives you free reign to say any story you want on the air. Okay, that's the larger point. Okay, Mike, we'll do these rapid fire. We don't need to harp on this for so long. There's a bunch of stories I want to get to, and you and I have not recorded in 2 weeks, so I want to get a lot of this shit out. Jeremy Pruitt, former coach at the University of Tennessee, Mike, before I brought up Jeremy Pruitt, do you know who Jeremy Pruitt is?
The name, but I'm not a basketball guy.
So basketball guy. Oh, Mike.
It's not basketball. Is this even worse? Football?
Yes,
I'm not lost on it.
It's football.
Look how terrible it is.
It's okay. I'll get this one quick. I won't call on you for this. I just want people to know about important stories. When I said ex post facto, did that start ringing a bell?
Yeah, but I think we need the professor to explain it for us.
Okay. I guess those are the rules. So ex post facto is kind of the opposite of what's going on here, but people will understand what we're getting to. That's like if you criminalize something, and while the thing was legal, you try to retroactively criminalize it. So just this concept of the law kind of lagging with society. So Mike, in the marijuana example that I like to give, right? I guess it's the opposite here. Actually, I'm not even going to bog us down with the marijuana example. Don't even worry about it. Jeremy Pruitt was one of a number of coaches in the history of college sports that was punished and received some type of punishment from the NCAA for committing recruiting violations, money, pay to play being involved, players getting cash. This is pre-2021. This is before it was allowed. So without getting into the whole saga, and maybe there are some SEC football fans that are understanding what's happening, Pruitt gets the call. He's a big defensive coordinator. I think he's a defensive coordinator, whatever. He's a big coordinator at Alabama, gets the call to go to Tennessee to be their head coach. So he's a huge hire. And he is awful at Tennessee. They're well below 500. He's not great. They paid him a ton of money. And halfway through, I think 3 years, 2, 3, I think it was probably 3 years into the term, these violations pop up, and Tennessee uses it to basically, and I should mention, he gets a 6-year show cause penalty from the NCAA as a result of these findings that players were getting paid, and Tennessee uses it to say, "Oh my God, we didn't realize our players were getting paid. This is terrible. Jeremy Pruitt, we're getting rid of you, and we're not paying you a single other dollar on your contract." And he's like, "Wait a minute, like this pay to play was happening in Tennessee long before I was there, and it continued when I was there." And I made a note of it, and I told the athletic director, Phil Fulmer, what was going on. And he seemed to be aware that this was happening ahead of time, and he said he would handle it. So how am I alone the scapegoat? So Pruitt ends up suing the NCAA, Tennessee's involved, and he's essentially saying that Tennessee wanted so badly to get out from under this albatross of a terrible contract because he was horrendous, and they owed him so much money that they kind of, in a way, conspired with the NCAA to find these violations, and Tennessee was helping, and they were very helpful in the NCAA's investigation, volunteering all this information. And Pruitt is alleging that essentially Tennessee kind of led the NCAA to only Pruitt's violations and not violations solely as against Tennessee and prior Pruitt actors. So he's suing and saying, "You cost me my entire career, Tennessee, conspiring with the NCAA, and this is terrible." So, Mike, why do I bring up, and again, I know it's backwards. Some listeners are going to text in after the fact, and they're going to tell me what the real term is. But ex post facto, I don't normally get to say it on this podcast. Mike, why am I bringing this up here? Why am I bringing this concept up of criminalization not completely lagging with reality?
Yeah, I mean, there's updated rules now. I mean, NIL is allowed. The NCAA violations that are no longer. So, I think that's where they're coming from in this, in this point. I mean, they applied retroactively, I guess, for Pruitt, and it may seem kind of unfair in that sense. And I think that's pretty much the angle you're going at. Am I on base, off base?
You're 1,000,000% on base. Trust your instincts, Mike. You are certainly on base. So NIL is very much allowed now, and Pruitt and paying athletes in a way. Obviously, you have to find creative ways to pay the athletes up until House passes, or House is approved, which we'll talk about at some point on the show. But yeah, he's essentially saying this is so unfair. This is so unfair that in the world where athletes are getting paid and they're getting paid so much money, that I am going to go down and my coaching career is ruined because of this saga. Now, I was on a Tennessee radio show last week, and I think maybe the day I got back from Ole Miss, and I was explaining I get it. I feel bad for Jeremy Pruitt, but wrong place, wrong time, wrong era. And do I think Pruitt might be filing this lawsuit to try to get the NCAA to lessen his show cause punishment? Possible. And I think he was a really hot coaching candidate at some point. The guy's not coached in college since then, and that's what he was fantastic at. So, I want to put on the radar interesting lawsuits. I'd be very, I don't know where that $100 million comes from, because in the 3 years that Tennessee, I think it's maybe 2.5 years, but in that period he was at Tennessee, he was also not playing well or not coaching well or coaching his team to tremendous success. That said, he probably should have been able to get another job. What's the delta between the money he should have earned at a non-Power 5 or a lesser Power 5 program, $100 million? It's a lot. It's probably 8 figures, but neither here nor there. That is the Jeremy Pruitt lawsuit. Mike, I said I would do that one quick. It was relatively quick. It wasn't super quick. You want to see how quick we're going to do this one?
Let's do it. Let me see it.
Xavier Worthy. We talked about on the podcast about a month ago, and we did allude that it seemed to us, to you and I, that Xavier Worthy's statement was preemptive, as if he was trying to get ahead of what it was his fiance, right?
Yep.
Girlfriend. Fiance might do later on. He was trying to paint a picture. So our spider senses were going off, and we were not wrong. That was not the end of the Xavier Worthy Kansas City Chiefs wide receiver saga. Mike, what happened with Xavier Worthy?
Yeah. So just to give a very high overview of it, they were engaged in, last year. This February, apparently a lot of negative things were happening. Worthy had discovered an alleged infidelity and asked her to leave the residence multiple times over 2 weeks. His fiance refused to leave, which was leading to escalating tensions that ended up turning into, on March 7th, which is what we covered, Worthy's arrest in Texas on a charge of assault of a family or household member. And allegedly it was by impeding breathing or circulation. So, I mean, very serious, assault charges here. And the following day, though, the Williamson County District Attorney declined to file charges against Worthy. So that's where, the gears were spinning, what was happening. So over the last month, protective orders were filed. His fiance was granted a protective order against Worthy by a Texas judge, but also Worthy subsequently applied for a protective order against her. Then later on into this month, so we got just a couple weeks ago, Worthy actually filed a lawsuit himself against his fiance, and this is where things kind of flipped a page. So also in Williamson County in Texas, he was alleging that she's schemed to extort the home, money, cars, other valuables from Xavier Worthy by painting those false stories of domestic violence, leaking some of it to the press, to professional and personal attacks, basically, on Xavier Worthy and his character, his reputation, his career, looking to allegedly destroy, everything that he has. So, in that also, Worthy had also alleged that his fiance destroyed property in his game room, his gaming desk, like just destroying things. The key to his Rolls Royce, that she physically assaulted him and by scratching his face and pulled out part of his hair, stole tens of thousands of dollars in cash, a handgun. So, he went right back with what is seemingly happening over years and years, or I guess over the last year. And he sought damages between $250K and $1 million. However, as of recording, literally today, 10 minutes before we got on, Worthy and his fiance reached an agreement to drop all legal actions against each other. But as part of that agreement, Worthy had rescinded his lawsuit and his application for protective order, as did his fiance. And that Worthy also issued a statement expressing his regret over misunderstandings and acknowledged that some of the public statements made by both his legal representatives and hers may have been misstated. So I'm not sure, where we're going to go from here. There was all of this ramping up, and then kind of right before we got on, there was a mutual agreement and some case dismissals, according to our friends at TMZ. They'll always get the first scoop. But it's interesting, to Worthy went right at with allegations of extortion, abuse. They both hired lawyers right away, Xavier Worthy and Tia Jones. And now here we are with everything seemingly kind of dropped and looking to be brushed under the rug. But we're ramping up to draft season, so need some NFL news, some off-season news, and definitely wanted to give you guys an update on that.
So, Mike, that was fast. It was faster than I did the last one. There's probably some more nuance we could put in, but sometimes, which is very odd for the athlete to file the extortion claim. I mean, I'm sure it happens. We don't normally see this I don't want to say we don't normally see this. It doesn't happen that often, but sometimes you want to sue and you want to apply as much pressure as possible just to get the person to stop, doing the next thing they're about to do. So who knows, right? And we're going to, not that we're in the business of speculating, but, Xavier Worthy took such an aggressive approach against Mike. It was fiance?
His fiance.
So, lovers quarrel, whatever you want to call it, they're that close. She might realistically know some bad information on him. And again, this is just the nature of the beast, what you think of when you're representing celebrities. Like, what could this person know? What could this person go public and harm his reputation? And they took a really aggressive approach. So, I'm sure NDAs were signed. I'm almost positive of it. And we'll maybe never know, but it was so aggressive, the approach that Xavier Worthy's side, someone that was living in his house, was just, my spider senses are going off. I don't know if he's out of the woods in terms of a suspension. I don't. If Xavier Worthy was a punter, I don't think he'd be with the team anymore, but he's a first round pick and he's super fast and all this stuff. So, I'm not swiping under the rug, but I am saying my interest is piqued by how quickly this was resolved. Anyway, that's me. Okay, let's do this quick while we have a few more minutes left on this. April, let's do House and we'll do Torpedoes. We'll call it a day. So, I might be able to squeeze in one more. So, this past week, actually no, on Monday, April 7th, Mike, you and I are recording this on April 8th, Tuesday, April 8th. There's been a lot of news, and we've talked about this date a number of times in the podcast. April 7th, the House hearing, the settlement's finally going to be approved. So, everyone's paying attention to this date. I watched the hearing, and I live streamed the hearing for, I don't know, 5-6 hours, however long it was on. And, but before that, and I know a lot of my friends in the NIL space, on the in-house side, lawyers on the outside, collectives, everyone last week, as we got, to Wednesday to Thursday, there was this push from a mystery person. I don't know who this was, so I'm not like insinuating anybody, but everyone kept saying, we have to get all of these basketball collective deals done. We have to get them done by April 7th. And everyone kept saying that. Everyone worked over the weekend to get the stuff done, myself included. But I said on Friday when I was presented with this, and I'm not going to call anybody out, but I was told by another lawyer that the deadline is April 7th. And I go, point me to where it says the deadline's April 7th. Because it looks like if this settlement gets approved, which there's 14 objectors showing up to court in California to protest this. So I would find it very odd that the judge would rule from the bench that the settlement's approved. Can we curse in the podcast, Mike? I think we can curse in the podcast.
Yeah, why not? We got the button that we can make it.
I won't curse. I don't need to curse here. I already ruined it. But screw the objectors. I'm Judge Wilkin, and the settlement's approved. She wouldn't have scheduled 14 objectors just to not let them have the time of day. And if you schedule 14 objectors and you have statements from Winston Strawn, there's just not enough time in the day to do that. And with a case of this magnitude, maybe the judge wants to put the decision on paper. There's a lot of moving parts. So anyway, this lawyer told me in no unclear terms, the deadline's April 7th. And I'm like, no, well, if the settlement gets approved, the deadline is really July 1st. The deals have to be wrapped up by July 1st. But even if they're not wrapped up by July 1st, okay, they will pass through this mandatory reporting mechanism where the clearinghouse has to approve deals and it has to go through Deloitte. I'm not really that worried about it. I'm not worried about a deal getting shot down. We don't even know what the market is. So how's Deloitte going to know what's fair market value or not? This is the first round of deals. So anyway, for any number of reasons, I was getting into a lot of fights on over the weekend and Monday, and I'm like, fuck it, I'm just going to do it. If the client wants us to do it, whatever. And this guy is fighting me on a conference call. So whatever. I'm like, it wasn't that hard to do, but I'm like, I'm definitely right. Anyway, Judge Wilkin gets on the bench within 10 minutes of the hearing start. She goes, just FYI, I am not ruling from the bench today, just if anyone was curious. So sometimes, Mike, like I told you in this podcast, you just got to trust your gut. You got to find where the source of that information is. And if you can't find the source of this information and you can't independently vet it when you do the research, things probably not true, right? And we go from Oxford, Mississippi, all the way to the courthouse with Judge Wilkin. Okay, last piece of business here. We've got about a handful of minutes on the clock. First, shout out. I told you we represent some cool people. I'm not normally allowed to say them. Some I can really, unless the client approves, there's all these ethical rules. Speaking of ethics, Pat McAfee, you're not really allowed to say that you represent a client unless you get the client's permission to do that. So even if and I've seen a lot of people do this wrong in their bio. If anyone goes to my law firm bio, they'll see I do representative matters. I don't say who the people are. Maybe you can figure out who it is, but you're not really supposed to say it. You can represented athlete in suing league for this, but you can't really say the athlete. So we have done the work, and I don't want to say we, because I've been at the firm for 3.5 years, but my firm has done Carmelo Anthony's outside legal work for however long he's been in New York for, so about 14 years. So I'm not really allowed to say that until we went public with it after Melo made the Hall of Fame. I won't say what I was about to say, but let's just say, Melo obviously would have been cool with us saying that we represented him at some point, but a lot of people at the firm here are old school. They did not want to say that. And, once a guy makes the Hall of Fame, you kind of have to give him a public congratulations or else it becomes rude on the other side. So congrats to Melo. Mike, I know you're a big Melo guy, right? Have we had this conversation?
Yeah, he's the only guy that has had me interested in basketball. So,
Oh,
or
Melo.
especially New York basketball, at least.
Melo, we're short on time. But I can't tell Melo stories. That I can't tell. But Melo is an incredible person. He is so tall. Like you're tall. Brendan Duggan is tall. Friend of the podcast. Mike
Melo
Scott is
Sage.
tall. I think all three of you were together when we did that bar event in the city last year. You guys are all like 6'2" and up, which I can't really. Again, I'm very normal height, like 5'11". You guys are all just like monsters. But anyway, that was it. Okay, Mike, we have enough time for torpedo bats. Can we do it? 60
Oh
seconds.
yeah, let's do it.
Are you a Yankees fan or Mets fan?
Oh, I'm a Mets fan.
Are you pro torpedo bat?
I am pro torpedo bat. Why not? I mean, who cares? I just don't see. It's not like, come on, what are we doing? Like,
I'll say this, and it's probably if you and I had recorded earlier in time for this happening, I would have been a little more hot takey. But the rule essentially says the bat has to be a certain length, a maximum length, a maximum diameter. It's got to be smooth. The MLB rule is not really that specific about like can it have a torpedo in the middle? Like it doesn't really speak to about it like an oblong shape or anything like that. What it does say is that experimental bats have to be approved by Major League Baseball. Mike, would you consider this an experimental bat?
yeah, yeah, I would say it's experimental. Yes.
I agree. My understanding is that this was considered an experimental bat, and Major League Baseball approved of it. Where there is any fault, I think the Yankees might have been a little sneaky about how they incorporated this bat and how and when they received this notice, which I have not been quite satisfied with the reporting on this point. But I don't know how this torpedo bat took baseball by storm. But Major League Baseball, you would think, yes, they can approve a torpedo bat. But what's not in the rule book is that Major League Baseball, you have to give Major League Baseball 30 days advance notice before a season to get approved. And they have to give it 30 days notice to the rest of the league. Like that type of nuance in terms of like putting the other teams on notice is not present in the rule. And that's what I think the real issue is. Like if you have an experimental bat, you can't take the league by surprise with it. You probably have to use it in spring training, right? You can't just like other teams have to be able to see it, or else by nature of the beast, you do get a competitive advantage. That said, other players on other teams are going around using the torpedo bat. It would have been a much larger issue had like the Yankees broke this out, like, I don't know, God forbid, in like the World Series. And they're like, oh, baseball approved of it. Like they approved of it last year and we were just waiting to use it at like a moment's notice. So I think we have all collectively exposed a rule, exposed a flaw in MLB's rules regarding the reporting of this rule and how other teams were put on notice by it. But I don't really care. I'm the torpedo bat's fine. You want to put more home runs in baseball? It's fine. I love baseball. It's my first love. It's been a hard watch in the past couple of years. Torpedo bat, I think, was good for Major League Baseball, as Rob Manfred had to admit recently. But that's it, Mike. I'm pro torpedo bat, but I'm also pro due process. And I don't think due process was being applied to the Yankees' exploitation of said rule. That's what I feel. That's how I feel.
I guess so, but I'm almost 100% sure that people have used the torpedo bat in the past in some capacity. So I don't know. I don't think that this is like, this brand new thing. And the biggest thing I think was Aaron Judge. He didn't use it while he was mashing his home run. So I'm all for it. Baseball needs new things. Let's keep it moving.
Mashed potatoes, Mike Kravchenko. Okay, let's get out of here. Don't we have to wait? Pause. Don't we have to leave?
Yeah, but you just want to do what to watch for?
No, don't you have something?
Yeah, I just have to be somewhere at 5:30, and it's 25 minutes away, so I have like 3 minutes.
Do you want to do a what to watch for?
I mean, WrestleMania is next week.
Okay.
So.
Pause. You do WrestleMania. I'll do Masters, and we'll end the show.
Perfect. Okay. And I think we got one more outside of just the torpedo bats. We still have to do our what to watch for because there's some, really significant events taking place this week, next week. Mine, I just keep saying it and I'll keep hammering it down at least through WrestleMania because it's been the road to WrestleMania. Next week, 19th and 20th. Very excited. I'm rooting for John Cena. I think heel John Cena wins.
I think heel John Cena is kind of a dud so far, but I'm happy to be convinced otherwise. But I'm happy if he wins. He's supposed to stick around for a couple months afterwards, so I'm ready for the reign of Cena. I think he's probably going to win. That's just me. It'd be terrible if he did not win, and then like the Cena heel turn was completely wasted. Okay, while we have 2 minutes, we got. I said this on the podcast. It must have been 6 weeks ago, and I had a friend who shall remain nameless that must be listening to the podcast late. So I gave you guys a pick weeks ago, and it was Diego Lopez to beat Alexander Volkanovski at UFC 314. UFC 314 is upon us. It's this weekend. I told you at the time, Diego Lopez plus 130. And I said, grab that number now, because I think by the time the fight happens, he will be a favorite. So I'd love people getting plus money. Listen, I don't know if he's going to win, but I knew the line was wrong. As we sit here today, as we record on April 8th, he is now plus 104. He is about to flip through the negative, and he's about to be a favorite. I like Diego Lopez. I liked it more plus 130. I still like it at plus 104, but shout out to those that took Diego Lopez plus 130. Feel good about that. And we'd be remiss, Mike, if we didn't mention the biggest event in sports, the Masters. Masters is this weekend. I did my research. I have one bet. I popped around on DraftKings. Hopefully those listening now have DraftKings. I thought this was an interesting one. I like messing around in the prop market. So I have some long-term props on Shane Lowry, top 5, Tommy Fleetwood, top 5. There's some strokes to gain from the tee to the green stuff that I like on advance. So I have those guys if you want to mess around with that. But the bet I am officially recommending, the one you can get mad at me for if it loses or if it hits, Mike, you can be our accountant and you can hold me to this. On DraftKings right now, you can take odds on the top past champion. So the only people that are eligible are people that have won the Masters before. So one, Scotty Scheffler is certainly a previous winner of the Masters. Right now, you can get Scotty Scheffler for plus 105, and he just has to beat the following people. He has to finish ahead of them. Scheffler might win the whole thing. I think he's like 4-1 to win the whole thing, but some rando can come up out of nowhere and have a good day. So, we want to get rid of them. Scotty Scheffler plus 105. Okay. He has to beat the following people: Jon Rahm, Hideki Matsuyama, Jordan Spieth, and then a bunch of guys that are not going to win: Sergio Garcia, Patrick Reed, Dustin Johnson, Phil Mickelson, Adam Scott, Charles Schwartzel, Bubba Watson, older guys that are well past their prime. Fred Couples, Angel Cabrera, guys are not going to win. So if you think he's going to beat, Scotty Scheffler is going to beat Jon Rahm, Hideki Matsuyama, Jordan Spieth, Sergio Garcia, and Patrick Reed, I like the bet. And Scotty Scheffler is the best golfer in the world for a reason. He should have won, I think, 2 weeks ago, the local PGA event I was watching. He was making a furious comeback. He didn't quite get there, but I think he's about to peak at the right time. That's the bet. Scotty Scheffler to finish as the top past champion in the Masters field. That's what I am watching for, Mike, and that's what grinds my gears. Mike, you ready to end this podcast?
Let's do it.
Okay. Mike, thank you. It's great being back with you. Shout out to Wheelberry. Shout out to Mississippi Sports Law Review. And that'll do it for us here at Conduct Detrimental. We will see you next time how about this? We'll see you next time at the epicenter of sports and law. Shout out to the OGs of Conduct Detrimental. Conduct Detrimental.